Wing Commander Sudhakaran, your take on this growing and blossoming friendship. Are there any takeaways that India needs to, in fact, confront France with? Like I always say, that the people-to-people connect. The commercial aspect of India and France definitely could grow leaps and bounds.
Vineet, I would, both my fellow co-panelists have covered adequately enough about the positives, the takeaways, how the relationship is growing and where it should go. I want to take these arguments to a different perspective of sorts. Having been part of the technology vision for India in 2047, we are drawing a different roadmap of sorts. And that comes from a different reality, which we as a nation today are completely overlooking. Last week, I was in Delhi in a global AI summit. I realized how shallow our vision is. We are simply not overlooking threats that come from this domain, and we are treating it as on technologies that we treated yesterday. The problem here is, one of the fundamental things that we need to understand when we are talking about signing on technologies like advanced robotics, AI, or autonomous vehicles and platforms that are associated with military is, you just simply cannot buy them even if it is from your elder brother or younger brother. Even within your own family, you can't trust an AI system to be brought from outside. If this country were to continue to pursue this policy, they will need to first amend if they can agree a French soldier to be part of the Indian armed forces, then by all means go and buy a French AI system. What they don't understand is these systems come with embedded zero-day vectors. And these vectors, there is no technology that will be available in the next 50 years to determine what will be the intent of an AI system. I raised this point to a senior defense official. He couldn't understand the difference between a self-intent and an instigated intent. The moment you're talking about any intelligence system, there are two components to it. Self-intent is your own moral. You can say that I'm not going to fight a war because your morality doesn't allow you to go. That is what is falling under the self-intent. But there is something called as an instigated intent. The instigated intent is because the developers, the hackers, the manipulators, the OEMs would know the exact functioning of how decision making happens in an intelligent system, which means at a given time of choosing, they can actually get a zero-day vector, a Trojan horse implanted into your weapon systems. You need to understand this. And we also need to understand in the next decade, the AI that we are going to talk is increasingly going to be cognitive in its nature. That means in the last decade, we talked about net centricity of warfare, which was what the Rafale aircrafts were good at. But the moment we are talking about an intelligence-enabled warfare regime, you're going to talk about every weapon interacting with each other on an intelligence platform, which is, greatly, vastly autonomous than what we know today. So this actually brings a different paradigm of sorts, which means that unless and until the countries like India, US, or the top powers will never buy weapons from anyone else. So let alone France replacing Russia or any other country for that matter, we today have to move to a regime of total indigenization of critical and even elementary weapon system. I don't think that we can buy a revolver in the next 5 years which has got some level of intelligence embedded in it. Because the problem is, as a country, we will never have the control. Because either you're not talking about true intelligence or you're talking about something else. If you're talking about AI-enabled weapon systems, you can't simply buy it. And that is something that we need to understand in our discourse and we need to implement in our policies. We can have friendship is okay. Friendship is okay, but in an intelligence-enabled warfare regime, in war, we don't trust anyone. And that's why we don't allow foreigners to be part of our, armed forces. Unless and until, even in a coalition, the forces fight under their own umbrella and generals. That is the reality of warfare for the last 2000 years. It is going to be increasingly difficult in an intelligence-enabled regime. And I will request the officials at the Ministry of Defense, at the Defense Headquarters, to look at this very seriously. I've given 2-3 reports on this, but people don't seem to get it straight. They need to understand, the Battle of Troy, which is part of our history, will repeat itself in the AI in a very, very different form. Are we prepared for it? If we are going to overlook this continuously, what is going to happen is that we are going to compromise on our national security and sovereignty. That's all I've got to say.
All right, Jal Dwivedi, how do you respond?